You're listening to TechRecruit, a podcast that educates talent acquisition and recruitment professionals on innovation to attract talent across all industries. We're glad you're here.
Welcome to the TechRecruit podcast. My name is Stacey Broadwell. I'll be your host. And today we have as our guest, Mr. Derek Zeller, who is an influencer, an author, and a mentor. Welcome, Derek.
Hey, how are you, Stacey?
I am doing really well. It's supposed to rain today down here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So unusual.
I'm in Portland. It rains all. We're going to get snow for the next 3 days.
Yeah. I know that you have your share of weather in Oregon.
We definitely have our share of weather. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting, and everybody freaks out in Portland when it snows. And it's, having lived in the Northern Virginia, DC area for almost 20 years, it just makes me giggle that people are like literally running to the Fred Meyer right now and buying bread.
They're going undercover.
Yeah, the big thing is like, and they did this in Virginia too. It was like people, when it was going to snow, everybody freaked out and they ran to the grocery store and they would buy milk, bread, and eggs. And the only thing I could think of is, why is nobody buying nutmeg? Because you're obviously making French toast.
And brandy.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm like, back in the day, I was just making sure I had plenty of alcohol because I knew I wasn't going to make it to the bar. So I wanted to know
not anymore. Now you're taking care of yourself.
Now I'm taking very good care of myself. I've lost quite a bit of weight to the point where I have to go get a new belt because all my pants, I look like Jethro from the Hillbillies. I need to go get a rope.
You and I met each other recently, actually. In 2018, I had reached out to you about being a speaker at my conference, LAX Tech Recruit, and you actually spoke at the Orange County Tech Recruit conference.
I did. What
did you speak about?
I spoke about humanization in recruiting. So everybody's so, as you know, Dean DeCosta is one of my dearest friends, and we talk about tools all the time. But tools is only one part of the factor. It's like, it's gotten to the point I've always said that now the game changer isn't so much finding someone's email or finding someone's phone number. It's getting them to engage with you. It's getting them to talk to you and giving them a reason why they want to. In this market specifically, but my entire career has always been about the candidate and the candidate experience. And then when the candidate experience became a conversation a couple of years ago, I'm sitting in the background just laughing. So I'm like, this what it is. You know what I mean? Yeah, I want to make sure the companies get what they want, either from a third party or when I was third party, it definitely, definitely the client was the one that was, signing the checks. But I still wanted to make sure the candidate was cool because I've run into many candidates over the years and it's been a long time. I have a long and storied career where those candidates that you hire, they get promoted if they're good. Developers become directors of and managing other teams and so on and so forth. People move up those ladders. I want them to remember me. I want them to remember that it's like, hey, I need a C++ object-oriented designer that's working on a Unix, Linux, platform, and the only person I know that can do this is Derek. It's almost like job security. People, they want to work with those who get the job done. And I do that by making the candidate be number one.
What are some of the ways in which you initially engage with a candidate? Maybe what are some of the first questions that you ask them and how you proceed in that recruitment process?
Well, I've said it over the years, I try to not use the word I in my original email. I always say we. And the reason why I say we is because it kind of tells the candidate that it's more than one person that's seen their resume and that wants to talk to them. My original engagement emails are always very on point. I also believe in job descriptions. I don't think there's a real post and pray. I mean, I've always kind of stayed away from that because it's a big argument. But I think if you write a really good job description and you make it about them and you tell them what they're going to be doing, too many job descriptions out there and too many emails are like, this is what I'm I am looking for. Well, why do I care what you're looking for? That's a big thing. And I try to personalize my emails. I'm not the, I know companies that are trying to do internal RPOs that want, 100 phone calls a day. That's not me. That's just not me. I shave it down to, I want, a couple of people I know can do the job, because I've been doing this a really long time. And I know when I look at a resume, if it's written pretty well, that's the person I want to talk to. So I'm going to do some research on them. I'm going to jump to LinkedIn. I'm going to jump to Facebook. I'm going to jump on Twitter. I even sometimes, like when I knew it was going to be more like a former Google employee, then I would I'd go look on Google Plus and want to see what they're writing about. What are their interests, so on and so forth. And I've written that into emails. I know it sounds creepy, but I've had a lot of, and the other thing on an email that I love to do is in my signature page, I'll put in like really interesting quotes from philosophers like Camus or Nietzsche, even Aristotle, and I've had, because I'm talking to people that are highly intelligent most of the time. I mean, my career has predominantly been in IT, and there's been times when I'm going to talk to PhDs for, data analytics and things. And I've had some of these people, this one lady, she's now an adjunct professor at Harvard. She wrote me back. She's like, I'm really not interested in the position because I just took this job at Harvard. So yeah, why would you be? But she said to me, the reason why I wanted to email you back is, she said, I was absolutely fascinated by your email, and he was even more fascinated by your signature. She said, I thought that was really, I've never seen a recruiter quote Aristotle. So that was a great icebreaker. And then when my books came out, she read me the first book. She actually wrote me a private email on LinkedIn, because we're connected on LinkedIn. She goes, I read your book, and she goes, I felt like I just read someone's private journal. That was pretty cool. But see, that's what you get. You elicit human emotion. We're humans. Everybody's so worried about AI. Everybody's so worried about this automated stuff. It's not. It's, first of all, it's machine learning. It's not artificial intelligence. We're not there yet. We're just not there yet. But if you're worried about AI, then this is the way you combat it. A computer is going to come up and, it's like War Games, that stupid movie from the early 80s. Hi there, would you like to play a game? And it's inconclusive. So I don't know. For me, it's personalization, humanization. Recruiters already have it bad enough. Google recruiters are, and you'll just be horrified. I mean, I know so many people have put these in presentations. I did it once myself. Steve Levy and I wrote a piece that really kind of blew up the internet on Recruiting Daily. It's called Hello, My Name Is. Tough piece to write, and even tougher to read even now, because it still stands true, and it breaks my heart, because that was almost 2 years ago. And we just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and that's the definition of insanity.
Tell me about the piece. Tell me about Hello, My Name Is.
Well, it was, Steve and I were making jokes about spam emails that we were getting consistently, even sent to ourselves. And we had a Facebook page where other recruiters were coming in and saying, yeah, well, check this stupid email that I got. I mean, it was just so impersonal, so impractical. And they were like, I'd get emails for graphic design, because on my resume, I've looked for graphic designers. So they don't actually look at the resume. They say, oh, that's a keyword. They just throw it in, right? And then they just send out 1,000 emails so they can hit their numbers of just getting emails out. Not literal contacts, not actually talking to somebody, but wasting everybody's time.
Yeah.
And so we came up with a concept. Our concept basically boiled down to, we were talking about real people and what really happened. So we said, like, veterans, women, younger people, older people. Ageism is a big problem in California, big problem in California and Silicon Valley. And they're just now starting to figure it out. And what other people don't realize is, like, I was just up in Kent, Washington over the weekend, because I'm thinking about moving that area. And it was crazy, because I was going to get an apartment and we'll figure it out. And then all of a sudden, every apartment complex we literally went to or senior living. And Dean, I asked Dean, I'm like, why is there so many senior living places in these cities, these little towns? And Dean turned to me, he goes, dude, he goes, the baby boomers, they're going to retire. They're retiring soon. And even us, Gen Xers are going to start retiring soon. I mean, I'm only if, I could retire now. I'd be happy with it. But that's not true. I can never not work. That would kill me. But Dean's right. So it's like, and that knowledge transfer isn't happening. And that's what, there's a general concern for me on that. It's not just knowing IT, but it's a moralistic issue as well. But it is a knowledge transfer. It's because, I've been there, done that kind of thing. And the t-shirt's so old, can't even wear it anymore, So that's something I just generally, it's a general concern.
So a big thing that you have, one of the topic that you spoke about at the conference is about making your engagement human. And like you said, you were working with Steve Levy and talking to Dean DaCosta, and just the emphasis on where your biases might lie, or where the opportunities are not seen, but going beyond that and actually being able to engage a candidate or a potential employee in a real way. And oftentimes that initial contact could be on LinkedIn, and it can be on Facebook, it can be on the social media channels, it can be on a tech-specific blog. And so give me some examples of some successful engagement.
Okay, so there's two ways to engage with people. There's reaching out to individuals, right? Sending out emails. I like doing phone calls. I introduced myself right away. I said, when they answer the phone, I said, hey, this is Derek Zeller. I'm with, whatever company I'm working for. Was wondering if you had a few minutes to chat about your resume and some of the things that we're looking for here at this company. And I want to gauge your interest. And so what I'm doing is I'm asking them, would you be interested in a phone call with me right now? If not, would you be able to talk later, which is fine. Mm-hmm. And third is I'm interested in your interests, right? So I'm asking them, I already know what you do. I've seen your resume. Would you be interested in this role? And I've had a lot of people say to me that that's the first time they've heard that. The other thing I like to do is I also, one of the first things I say after I say, my name's Derek Zeller and I'm calling from, whatever company. The second thing I ask is, so how are you today? Would this be a good time to chat? This is a true story. That's my moniker is #TrueStory. Way back in the day, I was looking for a senior level 3 help desk person with Microsoft and Unix background. And it was for American Express, which was one of our largest customers. This is back when I was in third party. And I found this guy, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is him, right? I mean, from the resume, this is the guy I want to talk to. And I found him in my own database. And I called him. I said, I know I'm calling you out of first of all, I said, hey, how's your day today? He's like, it's been nuts. And I'm like, wow, okay. I'm like, I think that's my first opening. I'm like, well, do you want something that's not nuts? And he started laughing. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm currently, one of my clients is American Express, and we're looking for a senior level help desk person that would eventually become a lead and run a team. I see that you've been in this business for quite a while now, and I was wondering if that would be something that interests you. And if it is, let's talk. If you can't talk now, we can set up a time. I said, I work until 9 o'clock at night, so I'm fine. And he started laughing. He said, no, he goes, I just got off shift. So he goes, he goes, but I'm tired, but I'm also very interested. Long story short, we talked for a good 45 minutes, not just about the job, but about things in general. We talked about sports. It was back in Arizona. We were laughing about how hot it is and how one of his main issues is always like air conditioning. He's got 3 direct lines to 3 different air conditioning companies because they got to keep the servers cool. And so that's part of his activity and how many hats he wore. But at the end of our conversation, he thanked me for asking how he was. He had worked 12 hours, multiple phone calls, and not one person asked him how he was doing. That's humanization. That's making it human. He got the job, by the way. He got the job. Yeah.
You're gonna make me cry. What are you doing? Wow, I felt that.
This is emotion. We're allowed to be emotional. Recruiters have to start telling you need to. It's okay to be emotional. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's good. It's good for the soul.
Mm-hmm.
You know. That's an actual fascinating documentary on Mr. Rogers. I had no idea how brilliant he really was, of how he broke barriers by doing things that you weren't supposed to do. And that's what I think we need to see more in recruiting. Is I think we need to start thinking more outside of the box. And it's got to come from the top down. It really does. I just know too many directors that shouldn't be doing their job just because they went to Stanford.
I was going to talk about that, if you're comfortable with that conversation. So, yeah, being human in the recruitment process. And here's, I feel sometimes could be, because I look at my own career path and kind of where I started in recruitment, and I worked for a Fortune 500 agency when I first started, and that's where I got trained before launching my own agency. And I remember just being so eager to get through the candidates and on to the next one, because you have to fill those jobs and you have to make the quota and you have to call 100 candidates to get 5, and maybe 3 are qualified and 1's going to get the job, right?
Right.
And that's a tough ratio, but that was like the success ratio. And so being able to slow your roll, to slow yourself down, to take time to understand what the person is looking for is what makes you a successful recruiter. And I think that comes with experience that you have, Derek. Not everybody is going to get that because they have this quota to meet. And that's maybe, and you tell me what you think. Where do you feel this idea of candidate experience really kind of hit that tipping point where now everybody's talking about it?
I think Chris Hoyt and Jerry Crispin from Career Crossroads really made some inroads there. I know other people started to realize that it's broken. And you run into a guy like me who's working for a small government contractor, you know, and I'm winning against Microsoft. I'm winning against Boeing. I'm winning against all of the SAIC, Leidos, all of these big companies. I'm beating them. I'm getting the candidates that are taking my offer and not theirs, because they want to come work for a company that has someone like me as the front of the company. I'm the face of the company. I also believe in working with hiring managers. I've canceled hiring managers. I'm like, you can't ask those types of questions. I sit in on meetings. I sit in on interviews. I want to hear what's going on.
Yeah.
I was also a compliance officer. So I was EEOC, I was OFCCP, I was the SME. And I was like, okay, guys, it's a new ball game right now. It's a new ball game. And there's just things you have to do and have to comply with. And it's just also being human. I mean, you know, there's just certain questions you don't ask. But it's also the attitude and the attitude from the manager, because listen, they're going to be reporting to you. So if they don't feel comfortable with you, they're going to go take a job someplace else. And that's how I used to beat out all of these large companies, because they all come in, they look all the same. They all come in with the same suit, white shirt, you know, red or blue tie, dark suit, Monday through Friday, no tie on Fridays. And it was just, you know, and it was just sort of like, okay. This is weird. You know, I didn't say that don't wear it, but, you know, say that you will be different here. You will have a good time. You will be taken care of. If you have problems, these are the people you talk to and you call. I worked for companies where people were terrified of HR. That's totally the wrong way it should be. I mean, human resources I just read an article somewhere. It's like, put human back in human resources. I think that we've actually done a disservice by calling it HR, because we acronym so much stuff that it kind of takes away that humanization again. Mm-hmm. And it is human resources, which I think is just a bad name all the way around.
Yeah.
I just don't like that title.
What would you call it?
I don't know. I've never really put a whole lot of thought to it, and that's really my fault because I used to, when I managed people, I always said, if you have a problem, come with me with a solution. If not, you're just complaining.
I have an idea.
Go, let's hear it.
Experiential employee management.
No, I like it. Sure.
EEM.
EEM, yeah, but let's make it into an acronym so that nobody knows what the hell's going on.
Experiential resources. It's all about your experience, right? That's what they're doing.
I'm going to think about that.
So so we're talking about the candidate experience and kind of where this tipping point was, where suddenly now we're making it like, okay, we need to take better care of candidates because maybe they're green now and they're just graduating college and they don't fit the role that you need, or maybe they're not interested, whatever the case may be. But then they're a senior level, and then they're a manager, and then they're moving up to a CTO, and that whole career life cycle where you're able to still maintain that relationship is what's critical.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And maybe when you're so young yourself and you haven't had that trajectory, that's not something that you quite understand. So how do you maybe train that in an organization?
Once again, it's a top-down thing. I've been with companies where I've had senior VPs come to me and say, "I'm hearing a lot of good things about you from my managers. You're getting them really good people, and I appreciate that." And I say, "Well, thank you. I appreciate that you came down and said that, or you sent me a nice email." I said, "I'd love to get like on your calendar and chat with you about doing actual training across the board. I would like to do like lunch and learns. I know everybody's here and is busy. I get it. So let's order a pizza and some soda, and give me 45 minutes. And it's not going to be a lecture. It's going to be interpersonal. You've seen me speak. I want people to talk to me.
Yeah.
I don't want you in that comfort zone of where you're just being talked to. I'm not a lecturer, right? I'm very much an Aristotelian. I believe in Aristotle's thought of free thought, and everybody gets a voice and has a question. And I love that. And I've had a lot of hiring managers come up to me and say, "Wow, I never thought of it that way." Because they're just, personalization has been driven out of them so much in these corporations and companies. It's why a lot of people want to go work for a small software company or startups. It's the thrill of building something, but everybody there, you can't do that. You've got to have each other's back. It's, all my military hires, that was a big thing for them. It's like they have a saying, I got your 6, which means 6 o'clock, which is you're at noon, they're at 6. You know what I mean? And that's something they look for in companies. And, there's companies out there that are really screwed up. And now with social media and everybody's a freaking reporter, you do something stupid and you're going to get caught. I didn't read the whole story on it, and I don't know very much about it, but apparently Walmart slammed their hand in the door because they let go of a bunch of greeters that were disabled or something, and immediately hired them back because like the world went nuts. Like people were boycotting Walmart. And that was just like, oh my God, I didn't even read that. I was staying off of the computer for a couple of days kind of thing. But, it's now a report just came out on ERE. I think ERE put it out. I don't know. Craig maybe put it out.
I think it was TechRecruit.
TechRecruit. I think TechRecruit probably broke the story. Now Google's saying now that they've underpaid men more than they've underpaid women. Really? Really? Okay. Way to spin doctor that. Okay, this is going to be interesting to see where this goes.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. I don't know. It's just kind of one of those weird things.
I had a conversation recently, and I felt like you would be perfect to kind of weigh in on this.
Oh no.
10 years ago when I started in recruiting, and the traditional recruitment full desk model where you are posting your position, you're doing the intake meeting, you're posting, you're doing your sourcing, you're doing your calls, you're doing your interviews, you're bringing them in, you're presenting, like the full desk, right? now, I was speaking with somebody recently and saying how companies, especially internal, larger companies, are moving more towards a model where it's split, where you have a recruiter who just handles the second screening, and you have a sourcer who teams with that person, and it's a separated divide. And so I want to ask you, do you feel like that is something, that model has always been around? Has it evolved into more of a robust model?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started 22, 23 years ago, there was no such thing as a sourcer. That's what you did as a recruiter.
Yeah.
I think then we got into this whole thing. Well, we don't have enough people, or recruiters then eventually got saddled with doing all kinds of things that isn't recruiting. So they weren't able to do actual recruiting anymore. Now they were inundated with resumes to the job descriptions that were posted. They got saddled by, like OFCCP says there's a definition of a candidate. So any candidate that applies is considered an applicant. You have to reach out to them if they look like they fit the job. So if I have a software developer job and you're a janitor, I don't have to call you. I can disposition you up because you're just obviously not qualified. But if you do have the subset or set of skills that I'm looking for, I have to call you and qualify and find out why you wouldn't be qualified. Mm-hmm. And I have to document all that. Well, that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And, in the corporate world, you're working, I know most recruiters, they're doing an 8-hour day. They get a 9-hour day when they do 1 hour for lunch. They come in at 8, they leave at 5, and at 4:59, they're shutting the computer down. I've never understood that. It's just not the way I kind of do things, but it's how I was trained. So I think now the new conversation is it sourcing or is it research teams? That's interesting. Because like I said, it's much easier to get information on people now than ever before. There's plenty of tools that do it. And it's not just emails anymore. I mean, there's really good software products. I'm going to do a quick shout out to Engaged Talent. That really is more of a research tool. Now, yes, they can give you phone numbers. They can give you email addresses, all that stuff, all that really fun stuff. They can get that for you. But it can also, they're doing predictive analysis now. And that's the new thing. It's a big thing on Wall Street. It's predicting what's happening with a company because of the company's health. Did they get delisted off the stock exchange or NASDAQ? What is their financial fiscal ability? How many, I know a company that went through 3 CEOs in 2 years and got delisted. If I'm a recruiter, where would I want to go hunt?
Oh.
What do you think the stability in that company is?
That's like poaching ground right there, right?
It's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
You call into that company and bam, it's going to be very rare that you're going to find someone, unless it's in like senior leadership, is going to want to leave. And even then in senior leadership, they might want to leave. But it gives you a much better, accurate poach mentality. And there are sourcers that are out there that are actually more research analysts. Because they don't want to talk to people. They're introverts. They don't want to do all that first contact. They don't want to get on the phone with somebody. They just want to, they want to find the information. They're hunters. I think that's like, there's a thing, hunter-gatherer, there's the hunters that go out and hunt and the gatherers that grow. I think recruiting has become the gatherers, and I think sourcing has become the hunters. And they're going out and bringing research, by the way, especially in a lot of different industries. You bet your bottom dollar that Amazon wants to know what Microsoft's working on. And Microsoft wants to know what Google's working on. If you ever notice, they're all coming out with the same product at different times because they go in and poach the team that finished the product. It's like, well, you finished that product, come bring it to us. We'll give you some more money. And you get to do it all over again. Right? I know I'm talking in IT terms, but this refers to any manufacturing. I know a company that was in desperate need of people who did manufacturing in Ohio, and were having a hard time to find people to move to Lima, Ohio. That's where the factory was. And we Engaged Talent tool, one more time, it's the last, don't talk about them, but Engaged Talent was able to find a factory 45 miles away that was shutting down and had 350 people that were losing their job.
Yeah.
And the company just was like, what was that? Like, how come we didn't know this? Like, I mean, literally, like they were just like, how come we didn't know? I'm like, because you're not using sourcing to its fullest potential. You just want phone numbers and emails. That's not the way it works. Like I said, I mean, it's the research on finding information on people and why they would want to contact you, what's going on with the company, where you know this might be a good company to go hunt from.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, I need XYZ type of person. Okay, I'm going to go out and find out what companies have those types of people in the area or in the country. If they're, you know, if we're willing to relocate, and a lot of companies are, they're willing to pay for good talent. So I'm going to go out and find that ABC company, and I'm going to start digging in and finding those people. And there's a lot of ways to do that too, but that's the research piece of it. And that's where I think sourcing is really going. I'm excited about that. I really am.
You know, I definitely, so we were talking about why sourcing has now been divided from like a different sort of recruiter role, where the recruiter is doing the recruitment, like, but not the sourcing aspect of it. And so I think on the front end, when you're doing that quote unquote talent mapping, when you're surveying the landscape, seeing where your opportunities to find candidates or companies that have the similar candidates, or maybe they have similar tech stacks, you know, or new universities or companies that have high turnover taking into growth, and, you know, all that sort of thing that you can do on the front end. But then taking a tool like you said, Engaged Talent, and being able to harness that open source intelligence
Right.
out there on a continuous basis, that right there in itself is a job. So, that's very interesting.
Yeah, and the thing too is we are becoming more of an automated society. There's some really great tools out there that will automate your social media for you. What was his name? He was at our conference last.
Uncommon?
Was it Uncommon? Or what was the guy?
The guy?
He has they sends you a text and an email saying, hey, do you want to post this?
Oh, Alistair from Content App.
Yeah. Say
Yeah,
that again.
he's great.
Yeah. Was it Contact Out, right?
Content App. Yeah.
Content Out. Check that out. That is such a cool tool.
Content App.
Content App.
Yes, Content App.
Okay, and another cup of coffee apparently. But it really is kind of cool because you set it up on Content App. You tell them where you want to go, where you want your stuff to be posted. So I post on LinkedIn, I post on Facebook, I post on Twitter, and it does all for me. It's all automated. All I have to do is say yes or no, if I like the article or not. And that means my name is out there, right? And it's not just for recruiters, but it's for candidates.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I need to talk about it. I would like to do, I think one of the things that would be great with that particular thing is just interesting articles, period. What I've told people over the past is if you're recruiting for information assurance, let's say, or you're recruiting for data analysts are really big right now. Sign up for a bunch of data analyst sites that have articles about data analysts. Sign up to Tableau, sign up to, SQL Server, so on and so forth, and how they're using it. Exposés, so on and so forth, and start tweeting that out and putting that into your LinkedIn account. Because data analysts, and use the hashtags, because data analysts and the generations now are looking, and they're having their own buckets of articles they would want to read, and they just don't want to have to go find the information themselves. So if you give it to them, they're like, this guy gets it. Or Stacy really gets me, gets what I'm doing, and that's really cool. I want to talk to Stacy Broadwell because now I need a job. Well, I've decided I'm going to look for a job. The first person I'm going to call is Stacy, because Stacy's been posting stuff about what I do. So obviously you get it. I took a look at your profile, right? And your LinkedIn profile, we did this last year. Your LinkedIn profile, Lou Adler says this as well, is your LinkedIn profile, if you're a recruiter, should not look like a resume. It should be saying, this is what I'm looking for. And this is how you can contact me. I have probably 45 connection requests on LinkedIn sitting in my inbox right now. And I'm getting requests from software developers that people will be drooling over. Data analysts that people will be drooling over. They're never going to, and if they're contacting me, that means they want to talk to me about something. So when I write that email, I'm like, hey, thanks for the LinkedIn request. Happy to bring you on board. How can I help? You just want to, is this just a future pipelining for you in case you need a job? Or are you kind of looking and you want to talk to me because I work for ABC company?
Absolutely.
Or because you saw a job on there and you didn't want to go through the obnoxious process that you have to go through for some of these companies, then I got to fill out an entire thing, and then you want the resume, and then you want me to redo the resume against what the application was. Now, there was one company I worked for that was really brilliant about that. You just sent the resume in, you just put in your general contact information. You never filled out an application. It's not until you were interviewing.
Yeah.
They would send you the interview request with an application, and the application was required to be filled out before you come in and interview. Now that's by law. EEOC says you have to have one. So does OSCP. You know, you have to fill out these forms, these EEOC forms, because they want to track everything. That's a metrics, and that's fine. But if I'm not interested in you, or if you're somebody at disposition out right away, then why did you spend a half an hour just trying to apply for the job? Now the onus is on the candidate as well. If you're a candidate and you're just fly-by-nighting, sending out emails and resumes so you can get your unemployment check, that's your fault, not mine. You know, don't look at a job and say, oh, I can't do that, but I'm just going to go ahead and apply anyway so I can show that I applied for 5 jobs this week and then I get my check. There's a lot of states that do that.
That's an interesting kind of almost a topic in itself, though. The person who's looking for a new job that just ends up blanketing the entire job site with their resume that isn't tailored by any means. It's just that they're up one night and they're just pounding away, just submitting the resume, and just like clogging up databases with their resume, and not really wondering why they're not getting any feedback or what's going on. That could be a whole different topic.
Oh yeah, it's like having a good job description, really specifically saying this is what you'll be doing and what's expected of you, and these are the things that we're looking for, but this is the job. So people look at it and say, oh, well, that's for a front-end developer. I don't want to be a front-end developer, so I'm not going to apply. But if you put it in that you don't say that it's a front-end developer or a back-end developer, or this is a Unix systems administrator, and this is the language and the flavors that we're using, they're not going to apply most of the time. At least I've seen that. I know people that say completely opposite, but I rarely get like, house painters applying for a software job. You know, it's just, I'm not going to see that very often unless they went to school. And this is where recruiters can be lazy. Unless they went to school and got a 4-year degree and they were a house painter, they don't have a full-time, they've never done a full-time job in software development. It's kind of a different story. So if you have entry-level programs, that's a great thing. But here's the other thing. And once again, it's personalization. That developer that you talk to that you just completely blew off in an interview in 3 years is more than likely going to be working somewhere doing that very thing. And they're going to remember you.
Mm-hmm.
They will remember you. I mean, I actually have my own list of recruiters I'll never work with during my job searches.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have to remember, people have long memories. And what was it, my grandmother used to say, but she took it from, I can't think of it, famous poet, but she said, people will forget who you are, forget your name, forget what you look like, but they will never forget how you made them feel when they find out who you are. That's huge. That's huge. So it's a minefield that we're in on a constant basis. So just treat everybody the same. Treat them with respect. Treat them with kindness. Be good in the world.
So this whole engagement of how you initially engage with a potential candidate or a potential employee, that human interaction, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Putting out content that's relevant to them. So they ping you and say, hey, I'm a data developer. I'm a data scientist. I saw that you were putting out these articles on Python or R or what have you. You seem to know what your stuff is, a way to drive traffic to you. And I would say another one is like in the training element, you're talking about training, live events. Like mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times, I do 2 types of events. I do the CTO roundtables at ctoroundtable.com. and I do LAX Tech Recruit at techrecruit.io. So I do 2 conferences a year, and I do monthly mixers for software developers and engineers, right? And through those, I get so many resumes versus the the outreach on the job boards and online and what have you. Because they get to meet me, they get to see the face, and they get to meet me in person, and that's way more profound.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I did an experiment. I actually wrote about it and posted it up. It was called the experiment that you were part of but didn't know you were.
Okay.
So for a year, Monday through Friday, between the hours of 5 and 7, I would post up a quote. Had nothing to do with anything. And I would quote people like George Carlin, all kinds of different comedians. And then I would put sometimes up some really philosophical thoughts. So fast forward, just after this year, I reached out to a candidate. I called them up and we started talking. And at the end of the conversation, she said to me, she goes, "You know what?" She goes, "I follow you on LinkedIn." And she goes, "Because I love to read your daily quotes." She goes, you are really funny, and you really put some really cool stuff." How cool is that? I haven't even met this person yet, and she's already following me. I have people on Twitter that follow me. They're just like, sometimes you say some really funny things, and there's always quotes. And always make sure if you get a quote, and if it's unknown, then it's unknown, but never try to take a quote yourself, really, if you can. And I even put it there, like, as long as I have, or sometimes I would take to mess with sourcers, I just put in like GC. Right? And so like now it's like, who's GC? So now you're gonna take the quote, you're gonna drop it in, and you're gonna find it's like, oh, it's George Carlin. It's always fun. Those are fun little things. But I mean, my spike on Twitter and LinkedIn was through the roof there for a while.
I've certainly seen on some of your posts, hilarious posts, and just or light comedy, or just being like making fun of something or an idea or what have you. And I think this one time somebody posted something that was like, it was a very, they took it very personally or something. And, and I think you responded back, "That's a little heavy for a cartoon."
Yeah.
And I thought that response, I mean, it just kind of took the heat out of the whole, like, he was like, "Oh, like, I don't even remember what it was, but it was like, that's a little heavy for a cartoon."
we had, I mean, there's haters gonna hate kind of thing. I mean, on Steve and I's article, on My Name Is, that we had somebody that came in and she just took it entirely too literally. She's like, "Oh, it's not really true." I'm like, "Yeah, it kind of is." Because I mean, I went back and started talking to people. I mean, this was a history of what we've heard candidates complain about. I mean, you go to Reddit. We had a lot of information out of Reddit, for what candidates were saying, and it's a tough thing.
So, all right, I kind of like too what you were saying about the LinkedIn profile, right? Because that also kind of adds to your engagement with people, and it's the content that you are putting out there. And you said that it has to be for the type of people that you are attracting, like who's coming and looking at your LinkedIn profile. So tell me a little bit about your own LinkedIn profile, and maybe kind of there was a time at which you looked at your profile and said, "Oh gosh, I've been doing this." Because I feel like for me, I've had my profile out there, and then I was like, "Oh, I need to switch this up." And so I did, and I was like, "I wish I never did that." But is there a certain architectural format that maybe you follow, or advice you give to listeners about their LinkedIn profiles and how to go through them and some changes that they could make?
Unless, like I said before, unless you're looking for a job, your resume, your LinkedIn shouldn't, I mean, it should have your history, so on and so forth. I mean, that's how LinkedIn set it up years ago. They knew they were going to be a job board years before anybody else did. I mean, the smarter people in the country, in the industry, saw that a long time ago. So in your summary, basically, instead of saying, "This are all the things that I've done in my life," I tell them, I said, "Listen, I'm recruiting for XYZ. This is where I am. I put in hyperlinks. LinkedIn kind of at one point got real snippy about phone numbers and email addresses and contact information. They still kind of are, but you can put your contact information in there for your company and say, hey, contact me directly. You don't have to link in with me, but contact me directly. Send me your resume. If it looks good, I'll give you a call. And I tell them that. I say, I try to get to, and also, once again, being human, so listen, sometimes I get inundated. Give me 24 or 48 hours to get back to you or to get to you. A lot of times, if your resume looks really like super spot on, like what I really, really want, then I'm on seconds after I get the email, I call people. And I've had some people actually literally say like that's the first time in their life when they've looked for a job where a recruiter got back to them like that fast. I'm like, well, your resume looks that good for the position that I had posted up there. And I'm always willing, like I say, I'm always willing to have conversations with, back in my last real job, big job in recruiting was data analysts and data scientists. I'm always willing to talk to you. Now, yeah, you're going to get a lot of college grads. You're going to get a lot of master's candidates that are coming out with master's degrees. And I kind of fight for the ones that when I go down and look on their resume, and yeah, they don't have a ton of practical experience. Well, they have what's internship practice experience. I'll call them and say, so when you were doing this, were you actually physically doing the job or were you getting coffee? And I make a joke of it. And I've had some people say, oh yeah, well, I built this and I built that. I'm like, it should be on your resume. Now, I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't called you. And when then I write the summation that I send to the hiring manager, I say, hey, this person found me on LinkedIn, they just got their master's degree. They're a STEM candidate. They've got OPT for 4 years, which is 2 shots at the golden apple, the H-1B. And here's their pedigree. And this is all the stuff they've done for the last 2-3 years. Oh, and by the way, they used to work in whatever country they came from for 3 years doing this work until they came to the United States to get a master's degree. So why aren't we, and managers don't sometimes look at that type of experience because they become so linear, they become so dehumanized that you got to go fight for candidates sometimes.
Yeah.
So like, why would I want to go reinvent the wheel when I got the wheel right in front of me?
Yeah.
And I had a lot of, that was the VP that actually came to me and said, I'm hearing really good things about you because you're changing the way we look at hiring. I mean, you've got to be the voice inside. You can't just, it's like I said, for me, I'm passionate about it. You know what I mean? I'm passionate about the research. I'm passionate about the source, but I'm also passionate about the candidates. Because it's really hard. I don't know a recruiter in the world that's really excited about picking up a phone and saying, hey, you didn't get it. I do. You have to. Because you never know what's going to happen 3 months from now. They're working. They're not happy in their job, but they're still working and they're compliant. And let's say, within 15 days later, another hiring manager comes running up to you and says, I need this type of person. I'm like, well, here's 4 resumes for you. These are all silver medalists from these 2 different jobs that, we just hired somebody else, but they're still really great candidates. You can call the hiring manager and they'll tell you they really liked them, but they just like this person just a little bit more. And so why overwork yourself? Once you start building, that is the true, everybody likes to talk about pipelining candidates. I just don't understand that. They're human beings. They're not just standing there waiting for you to turn them on. But a silver medalist, that's a different story because they've already gone through the whole process. I already have their application. I already have their resume. We've already had these conversations. I got notes and documentation all the way through. All you really need to do, hiring manager, is pick up the phone and talk to this person and see if you think they're a fit or have them do a video chat with you and the team. And if you think that there's a personality fit, we already know they can do the job. Right? I mean, they got all the way through the process. Everybody liked the person. They just liked that one other person better. And I've had people hired that way. I've had hiring managers come to me and said that we've never done that before. I'm like, yeah, well, I'd rather have dinner than be on the phone. That's what you hire recruiters for. It's not to completely reinvent the wheel. It's a lot out there, and you get a lot of that from your LinkedIn profile. That's my thing, and then put in your interests and be the thing I have with like social media. LinkedIn is a social media tool. People aren't social on social media. Recruiters just don't. They're social with each other in the hidden groups like on Facebook and on LinkedIn, but nobody's getting out there and getting into groups and post something. You don't have to do it every day. It's pretty easy, by the way. You can get Hootsuite. Hootsuite will post it up on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter for you. No, not Facebook anymore. Actually, they got knocked off. Facebook won't let you do that anymore. So, but you can, and you for like $9.95, you can schedule information to be sent out at different times. What I like I said on LinkedIn, I was posting just fun quotes Monday through Friday. You know how long it took me? 5 minutes. Not even that. I got to a point where I just started pulling sheets, and I just go to the sheets and all the quotes from different people that I really liked, especially comedians. They have pages and then I just cut and pasted or Zoom infoed the page, clicked the page, dropped it in on a document and a Google Doc, and that way I could just go through. I just scrolled through and say, what do I feel like today? But today's Tuesday, right? So today's like one of those weird. Tuesday has no feel. Like Monday has a feel. Wednesday has a stupid nickname. Thursday is, thank God it's almost Friday kind of thing. And then Friday obviously has a really cool feel. But Tuesday is kind of like that broken stepchild. It's like Monday, but it's still not Monday. It's just like stuck in the middle. It's like Wednesday, it's like, 2 more days in the weekend.
Yeah.
Tuesday's like, what do you say, 3 more days to the weekend? No, it's boring. So on Tuesdays, I would go find Tuesday quotes. And some stuff made sense. Like one of the quotes I used a long time ago, which I thought was funny, but most people didn't get it. It's like, they didn't want it good. They just wanted it by Tuesday. It's like, who says that? But it makes people think. I like to think that people are like reading that thing. They're like, oh, wow. Like, Derek Zeller just posted something and I want to read it because I'm following them and they set it up. And people don't know this. You can set up alerts, account alerts for people you're following on all media, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So people that are actually following you, that people that you made that you don't know yet, right? No. It's on each account. So on Facebook, when you follow somebody on Facebook, you can set up an alert that says whenever this person posts something, it immediately comes into their box. And you don't have to be connected to them. They're just following you. Twitter's the same way. People have like hashtag recruiters or hashtag funny people. I mean, you can put people in groups. And so what they're doing is instead of seeing this constant stream, on TweetDeck or on Twitter where it's almost like you're trying to read something and like all of a sudden 20 more tweets come down. You can put them into groups and then people will go to that group and they're going to read the people they want to read. And sometimes they have 30 people in there, sometimes they only have 10, 15, 20. But I can tell because the Twitter will tell me, hey, so you've just been added to a list, right? So there are lists. Facebook doesn't do that. I just know on Facebook when I post something, I know a group of people that do follow me worldwide that will, immediately like or make a comment. It's kind of funny. I mean, it happens very quickly. Instagram's the same way. They don't have a group function, but Instagram is becoming kind of like my new favorite thing. I don't do it so much for recruiting as I do it for like my love of food. I'm a big foodie. And then I put just ironic pictures on there every once in a while, ironic selfies. But it's interesting because if you're following somebody that's going to come in through your feed, and or if you're connected to them, you'll see it as well. And then LinkedIn does not have that kind of feature, but you can just follow somebody on LinkedIn. You don't have to be linked into them, and so you'll see what they write. It'll come to the top of your feeds. You know what I mean? And so it's just like how people and people who really know how to do, like social media managers or community managers, they know that. And that's why that's the other thing too, is like when you post something on LinkedIn, down below at the very bottom, there are hashtags. And you should be filling out those hashtags. So those hashtags are group followers. Oh yeah, LinkedIn does have it. So there are people that are going out and saying, I want to see what was posted in hashtag HR. I want to see what was posted in hashtag data science. So you have data scientists that are doing the same thing. They're just going out and they don't want to go search for anything. It's just all right. It's just all handed to them. Just go to that, but they go to that hashtag and then all the lists of posts that have a hashtag to that hashtag will be in there. So it's a great way to get to people as well. Sourcing doesn't always necessarily have to be me always reaching out to people. You can, if you get an internal group, and this has been going on for a while. I learned this from Craig Fisher. I saw him speak once at a conference, and it blew my mind. He blew my mind. and said, I mean, I walked up to him and told him that, and we ended up going and having a glass of wine and chatting, and we're friends today. I mean, we're still talking. I always give him a shout out. I always give him his props. This isn't something I came up with. It's something Drake came up with. But that's what's the great thing about TechRecruit Conference. I'm going to do a shout out for Stacy Broadwell right now. The reason why this is so cool is because it's a local conference. This isn't a 3-day conference where you have to pay for a hotel, you have to pay for a flight, you got to sell it to your manager. You know, I'm going to be gone for 3 days. I mean, how many recruiters are going to say, I'm going to take 3 days off to go to a conference and I'm not going to recruit? No. I've been to way too many of these things. I see you people with your computers open. I see you on the phone. I did it myself. I get it. So this is really cool. This is 8 hours out of your day. It's a drive away. It's usually free parking. You know, it's not costing you thousands of dollars. And you get to hear some really cool people talk. And the best part is that you get to network with people with inside the Los Angeles area. I know you got one coming up in Chicago. This is a big thing. This is a local conference talking about local problems, right? This is, you know, Silicon Beach is a thing now. You know, even up here in Portland, you know, they're calling it the Silicon Forest because so many people are moving here and doing startups because it's cheaper to do startups here than it is in the Bay Area. And it's cheaper to buy a house here. Well, it used to be. Now it's getting kind of expensive, but it's an interesting spread. So you get to sit there and you get to kvetch and you get to complain and you get to talk. But the other thing that you find out is you get little tips and tricks. You know, and you're a recruiter. You should be being social with each other. It boggles my mind sometimes why people don't do that. Now, I remember back in the day, which was a Wednesday, a little shout out to a comedian, I was approached by Recruit DC, one of the original local conferences. 250, 300 people, they keep it pretty small. Sell it every year. And they do 2 conferences a year. And the director, Ben Gotkin at the time, and one of his board members came and, Kathleen Smith is actually the one that really came to talk, and she wanted me to speak. You know, I'm like what Hemingway said. I'm a writer, I'm not a person that goes out and speaks. It's not really always my thing. I do it on special occasions and for lovely human beings. But that's what TechRecruit Conference is for me, is that you get to, it's a sharing of ideas. It's learning things. You know, Dean comes in and talks about tools you've never heard of. You know, I talk about personalization, humanization. I tell you tips and tricks to find people without even tools. And, you know, like there's my story about Lily, the bartender, that she was my advocate and I made a ton of hires off of her and she was a bartender at a bar. But all of these IT guys would come in because Lily was just gorgeous and she poured a good drink. And she got to hear stories that I couldn't hear. Because when they found out I'm a recruiter, I mean, it was literally like it's like I hadn't showered for 3 weeks. They just all moved. You know, they wanted away from me. But Lily? Oh no, they want to talk to Lily. So when she found out about it, she gave them my card with her name on the back, said, just put in the email, you know, Lily sent me, you know, and I told her if they get hired, you get $500. And she ended up making like, I think it was 5,000 or 6,000 in 1 month.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And what was really crazy is my boss didn't know I was doing that. So anyway, it's a great story. You can read about it. You can find it online. But yeah, that's just, that's what I think this conference is all about. That's why I am such a fanboy of it, you know. And you did a phenomenal job in Orange County. I couldn't stop talking about it. And the great thing was the people came up to me and said, you know, I loved what you said in your presentation. Like, you know, Dean was technical and then you were human, and we learned how we can take both and mash it together. It was a great mashup. And you got some great speakers coming up. Lou Adler, he was my hero. He was my trainer, whether he knew it or not. I know I have the tapes somewhere. I'm pretty sure I have all of his books. You know, Lou's amazing. He's been in the industry forever, and he's still relevant. He's still point on. He keeps up. You know, he keeps going on, and he's a great speaker to listen to. He's a great speaker to listen to. We got some other great people coming, I know. So if you're on the fence with TechRecruit Conference at UC this year, get off the fence. Just sign up. It's worth it. And if your company's not going to pay for it, you know what? I'm pretty sure you're making good money. This is worth the investment. I mean, if you went to school, you don't have to take out a loan. There's no loan payments to go to TechRecruit, right? So it's TechRecruit. That's what I got to say.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Derek. I really appreciate it. I want to ask you, I'm going to end with 5 questions for Derek Zeller.
5 fast questions? Are
Yeah.
they yes, no questions? Are they yes, no?
No, well, no, actually you have to elaborate.
Oh.
How many books have you written?
I've written 2. There are books of one book. The first book I wrote, they're both on Amazon. The first book was a book of poetry I wrote when I was like 19. Really cool. I will say with both books, they're a little dark. Some of the stories I have, it's gonna make you think. The second book is a little bit longer. It's a lot more poetry. It's all new stuff that I wrote in the last year and a half. The first one is Thoughts and Poems for the Common Educated Man. And the other one is, I can't remember. It's over on the shelf. But you can find it on Amazon. Just put in Derek Zeller. I'm the only author underneath Derek Zeller. So, and I'm working on my 3rd book right now. The working title is kind of fun. It's called When You Give Up Hope, You Feel Much Better. So in these times and eras, so it's going to be another series of poems and short stories. So there you go.
And you've co-authored a book.
Oh, well, Dean DaCosta's book, it was more of an editorial. I just kind of cleaned it up, although Amazon kind of screwed up on the printing. So we are sorry for that. There's like 1 or 2 places where it bled over. They did it on my first book too. I mean, there's just something you can do about it. But yeah, Dean's tips, tools, and tricks. That book is predominantly for newer recruiters. If you're a senior recruiter, that's not the book for you. There's other books out there. In fact, Katrina Collier is coming out with her book. I think it's actually online now. She just came out with it. It's super exciting.
I think she actually launched it today. How to be human, or how to
resist robots or something.
And recruiters or something.
Yeah, how to resist robots or how to beat robots or something. It's an interesting. I talked to her. I don't think I'm in the book, but we had multiple conversations over the years at conferences. She's an amazing woman, good friend. But yeah, get Dean's book if you're new. It's a really great book.
I got it.
Yeah, I do too. Well, I know I have like multiple copies.
Okay, my next question. You've been to many conferences over the years.
Too many.
What topic or speaker is something that will always stand out in your mind? Is you can't forget that experience?
Wow, that's an on-the-spot question. There's been so many. I mean, the list is insane. I think Craig Fisher is phenomenal. He's just an amazing orator. Jim Stroud always blows me away because I love the way he works with the audience. He makes you say things. He makes you actually speak out, because he'll point at you and ask you a question, and he gets the audience all involved and drives them into this journey. It's like really amazing. Katrina Collier is phenomenal and an amazing speaker. Amy Miller and I can't think of my niece's last name. But Amy Miller did her first speaking event ever at Recruit DC a couple of years ago, and nobody believed that was the first time she's ever done public speaking. She was amazing, and it was people like me and Pete Radloff.
Hold on, it froze.
Front row, and yeah. And last but not least, probably the biggest shout out would be for me, because he's a personal hero and one of my other trainers, on top of Lou Adler, who is also a phenomenal speaker. But the one time, it was my first conference, national conference that I'd ever been to. And it was Glenn Cathy, who has a website, Boolean Black Belt. You should check it out. It's all kinds of free Boolean tips. He's been running it for years. He's a senior VP, I think, at, I don't know where he went. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But he's an amazingly gifted person, and he trained me so much. And I got to meet him for the first time at that conference, and he was keynoting. And he and I had, we had a speaker dinner the night before, before the conference started. And I was a speaker there. I was talking about OCCP. And I got to sit next to him and some of these really big names in the industry. And I was like a little kid with Glenn. And he's the nicest, most genuine human being I've ever met. He really is just a phenomenal person. And he's very, almost introverted to a certain degree. When he finished his speech, he came out and he saw me and we caught each other's eyes. And he came walking over and he said, "You got a sec?" And I'm like, "Sure." And we kind of went over to this corner and he's asked me, he said, "How did I do? Do you think everybody got it? Do you think people liked it?" And I'm like, I'm dying inside. And this is like one of my heroes just asking my opinion on his speech. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? And Glenn has become a very good dear friend of mine, and he's somebody to he's always got something interesting to talk about. And it's not just direct; it's a very, very like broad strokes. It's very broad strokes.
I have 5 of those speaking at TechRecruit in Los Angeles at LAX TechRecruit. So I'll work on Glenn and Katrina. I'm coming for you, Glenn and Katrina.
Well, Katrina's, I mean, Katrina won't be terribly difficult because she lives in London, but she loves hopping over the pond. I mean, she loves the LA area. She just lives, I mean, and that's what she does pretty much. I mean, she's a consultant and she's an amazing lady, a really good person.
All right. So what is your biggest pet peeve?
Spam. Spam is my biggest pet peeve. Because it's like, this is the dehumanization of recruiting and it's continuously happening. And I really don't like RPOs. Sorry, RPOs. I just don't like the way your model is just, it's horrific. I just can't, and I know it's not just in the US and there's a ton of RPOs that are coming out of India. They're doing the same thing. But all you're doing is you're using machine learning to go and find a keyword on a person's resume. You're not reading the resume. You're not personalizing the email. Or you're trying to personalize it, but then it's like, hey, great background. I'd love to chat with you about, a graphics design position or a systems administrator. I'm like, dude, I'm a recruiter. We used to, there's this group out, I don't know if it's closed or not, called, that Steve started, called the Unprofessional LinkedIn, where people would just post these ridiculous spam emails that they would get as a recruiter. And we're sort of imagining if you're an actual person who's actually looking, or you're a person who's on the verge of losing their house because you don't have a job and you're getting all of this crap and you're super excited because you open up your email, I got all these emails from recruiters, and then all of a sudden you read it and it's like, none of these are jobs that I do. You know what I mean? So you just keep raising them up and then tossing them off the top of the building emotionally. And and yes, I have. In fact, a group of us started actually writing back to recruiters like, hey, Susan, Bill, whatever, maybe we should take the time to be an actual human being and take a look at my resume. Here's this was really crazy. A recruiter who I actually know, who we're friends. We used to work together, her and I. She sent me a spam email for a systems administrator.
Yeah.
And I wrote her and I'm like, all I did is I had like little arrows and I said, really? Just question mark. That's all I said. And she got right back to me. She's like, oh my God. She's like, well, the company she was this, they're desperate for these roles. And so they were just spamming out like 500 to 1,000 emails a day through this automated system. She had no control over it. But I'm like, your lady, your name's on it. That's you. That's your name. Maybe 3 years from now, you're not at that company anymore. You know what I mean?
I like how she said she had no control over it. Wasn't me. It was I usually respond back, rookie.
Yeah, I just said, but I knew her, and I know that's not I've worked with her. I know that's not how she does things, and that's why I was just like, really? And we had a long conversation. I mean, we had a good phone conversation. She has my cell phone. She called me.
Who could not have a bad phone conversation with you?
Huh?
Who could not have a bad phone conversation with you?
Ooh.
You're so engaging. You have so much great things to say and offer. I'm always taking notes when we talk. We talk like twice a week.
I know we do.
Wait, I have another question. I have 2 more questions. Who are your mentors? Have you had any mentors?
I mean, not in a personalizational way, but like I said, I mean, I learned a lot from Lou. I learned a lot from Glenn. But I'm learning every day. You know, I have conversations with Dean almost daily. I have conversations with Steve Levy almost daily. I mean, the list of names, Stacy Zapar, I've known Stacy for over 20 years now, I think. You know, I mean, we both used to work. She lives in San Diego. I used to recruit in San Diego for a couple of companies, you know, just small companies like Geico and SAIC. And we were part of the recruiter roundtable that she started years and years ago. And she's an amazing lady. I mean, she was the first person in recruiting to actually start writing script to find people. And she was at one point the most connected woman on LinkedIn. You know, most people don't remember that if you don't know Stacy. She runs a recruiting agency, recruiting recruiters now. And she used to do a ton of public speaking and training, and she just didn't want to be on the road anymore. She's got kids, and So I think those are probably my tops. I'd say even to a certain degree, like Shannon Pritchett, definitely Jim Stroud, another guy I was just blown away when I met him, because I followed him. He's written a couple of great books. Shally Steckler for TSI. I mean, to me, he is the true godfather of sourcing. Like he was it. That was it. And then last but not least, a lot I've learned from would be Recruiting Toolbox, which is Carmen Hudson, John Vestaleka, and he's gonna kill me. I can't think. Ben Gotkin, who started ATAP, the Association of Talent Acquisition Professionals. If you haven't heard about that, please take a look at it. It's a great foundation and organization. Yeah, I'm actually a charter member. I was a founding member.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, the whole story boils down to it was not John Sumner. Who was it? Well, Jerry Crispin, Matt Charney, myself. We were all in New York for Bill Borman's True event a number of years ago. And Jerry and I always have very odd philosophical conversations about recruiting and how things are going. You know, he runs the Candy Awards and Candidate Experience Awards. That's his big thing. And Jerry and I were talking, and I said, you know, everybody's got an association. I mean, you know, or a union of some sort. I said, we're the only organization, and this is right when there was all the rumors of the new OFCCP changes were coming. And EEOC, you know, was always hounding HR and recruiting, and it was just kind of a big thing. I said, why don't we have something? Why don't we have a lobbyist? Why don't we have somebody that gets to go and talk to Congress and say, hey, that's not going to work? You know, I said, we don't have that. And Jerry said to me, he goes, I've been wanting to do that for years. Because at the time, SHRM had walked away from recruiting. They just left it off the table because they couldn't make money on it. Now they realize they can, and they're desperately trying to get back into the conversation. But we had this really conversation. So on the train home, because I took a train, it's just easier from New York. And on the train, it's like a 4.5-hour train ride back to DC. I ended up writing this whole thing about why there should be an association. And it was interesting because I thought we would get a very positive response, and we didn't. There was a number of people that were very adamantly like, oh, we can't do that. That's going to be, you know, authoritarianism and all this other stuff. And then Ben reached out to me, and he had a conversation with Jerry, and Ben already had written an entire white paper on how to build an association. And Ben, you know, he built Recruit DC, and to him, it's like, this is the next level. And so now I was there's a number of, I'm not going to drop names, I've been doing that enough, but there's a ton of people that have been in the industry for a long time. And we all decided collectively that we weren't going to be on the board. We're here to participate. It's all voluntary of the things that we do and the groups and the papers that we're writing and the things that are being put together right now. In fact, there's a big thing that they're doing right now with ageism. You know, on a global standpoint, not just national. It's not a national epidemic. It's a global standpoint now. I'm really excited for when that comes out. but yeah, I mean, I was on the team of investigating and talking with people that are in our industry that to build the board, and we built the first board. And there's some great people on that board, and they're doing some great work. And it's a very good cause. I mean, it's still young. We're still growing, but I think by the time I talked to Ben, I think we're close to 2,000 members.
Wow.
Like over 2,000 now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have a call into Ben, and we haven't talked in a while, and I want to talk to him because I want to see about him coming out to LA to LAX TechRecruit.
He should. When I first spoke with Ben Gotkin, he was talking about trying to like get a group going out here in Los Angeles, and people just weren't showing up. And I had a similar conversation with Todd Raffel. He tried to get something going out here in Los Angeles, and he just couldn't get it going. But so I started something out here in Los Angeles, and I'm getting it going.
I know you are.
I would love to have him come out.
We had a great crowd in Orange County. It was, and I mean, I heard literally nothing but positive responses from people saying, "Wow, I didn't know about that." And if you're on the fence, get off. I'm going to be working with somebody over there. We're going to do a happy hour somewhere after the show. So if you want to wait and for the traffic to die down, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to find something local and see if we can get a sponsor for it. But
so you've stepped in. You're mentoring me. You've stepped in as my mentor, and we have our one-on-one calls, and we've talked a lot about the industry and acclimating to that and understanding the opportunities and where we can grow the conference. But also you're taking on a project for the conference. You're going to be our master of fun. Right?
I'm working on it. Yeah. It's going to be a good time. I want this to be this. I mean, it's professional because we're talking about our profession, and I get that. But I also want this to be an enjoyable time for everybody, and I want people to let their hair down, as they say. I want you to check the attitude at the door and come in and see us start up like a good group in the LA. And this conference could be kind of the core start of that, and then have conversations. Maybe put together, a chapter inside for recruiting in LA. All kinds of things can happen, but it doesn't happen if you don't show up, right? You can't win. It's like the lottery. You can't win if you don't play.
All right. So my last question, what is your favorite food? You blog so much about your food and you're always taking pictures.
I just love food. I don't know. I guess like a food category or an actual food.
Oh my God, you're so cute. You're like, I love food. I don't know, actual food. If you go into a restaurant and they have that on the menu, you're the connoisseur of that food, and you'll know right away whether it's worthy.
I tell you what, wow, it's a tie. I'm a big pizza guy, but it's got to be New York style. But the other thing I love, and I rarely can find it, there is actually a place here in town that does it. It's a restaurant called Clyde's that makes it the way I think it should be made in the traditional sense, is beef stroganoff with egg noodles and the cubes of beef and the dark brown gravy. It's really, really amazing. I only go there about maybe once a month because it's very rich and it's very fattening. I've been trying to trim it down a little bit, but it's a great, when you go in, it's like stepping back into the 70s. It's you go into like the restaurant area and it's old school with, cloth napkins, so on and so forth. And then you go into the bar area. They have live music, but it's dark. It's like very dark, just like the old 70s bars. It's just very, very dark. And I love that. I think that's fun.
I do too. I like that kind of.
I mean, yeah, it's just
like those old Italian restaurants. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I told a friend, I mean, I mean, I won't do it, but I could eat 3 groups of food probably that lean to me the most are Italian, Chinese, and wait for it, Mediterranean. I love a good kebab, and falafel, I die for. There's a great place in Los Angeles, by the way, Stacy, that I'd love to take. I might come in an extra day or stay over an extra day. And anybody who stays over, if you're like taking a late flight the next day or something like that, or you're going to come in early, this might be a place where I got to look up the location. But there's a place over by UCLA campus, and it's called Falafel King. And it is amazing. Shout out to Falafel King. I hope they're still in business. They used to be they used to be like one of the original food trucks, like this little. Oh, I might talk to them. So the owner, the last time when I was working in LA years and years and years ago, I was so bummed because I went to go find Falafel King and it wasn't there. So I ended up going to this Italian restaurant and I had some great Italian food. And I'm walking over because I knew there was this little bookstore I wanted to go to. And what's across the street from me? That's this huge restaurant, Falafel King. And I'm just pissed. I'm like, I walked in, I got my book, and I walked into Falafel King, and the owner is there. I don't know he's the owner, really. I didn't know who the owner was, really, or don't remember. And he's like, hey, welcome to Falafel King. And I go, what happened? I'm like, this is huge. He's like, yeah. He goes, we just outgrew the business, and then the guy wanted to sell the lot because there's a whole new building there. And he goes, so I took a shot, and I got this place. And I'm like, I remember when I was like in my early 20s, my buddy was going to USC, but he lived down the street, lived in Century City. So we used to come here, and I mean, I used to live in your little restaurant. I just died for your falafel. I said, I just ate, but I got to tell you something. Give me a falafel. And he laughed, and he's like, are you kidding? And like, he remembers, like, he goes, you really do remember everything. I'm like, yeah, I remember. I said, you have the best tahini sauce. I mean, it's just, it's fantastic. And it's also vegan, so, so I remember I ended up breaking bread with him. He came over to the table and sat with me, and we both had a falafel. And he picked up the check. He said that was the best time he's had in a long time, and it was really neat. So if we're there, we'll throw it out. It just hit me right now. I'm like, oh my God, that's right.
We should, so Lou Adler is our keynote for LAX TechRecruit in July. And he was adamant that I not have pizza again this time. He was like, what are you having? You got to have something healthy like salad and fish. That makes everybody sleepy, and you can't have that at a conference. And so so we have to have good food.
Heavy carb.
Yeah.
All right, I'll look into that. I'll see what we can get. I think the transport might be the only major issue, but we'll figure it out. I'll see what else is around there.
Yeah, that could be. Well,
because he's up near the, like I said, the UCLA campus, and I know traffic there. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but we'll figure something out. We'll figure it out.
It's actually because it's in Silicon Beach. It's not that bad of a drive, but yeah, there might be closer options. There's lots of restaurants down there. That whole 5 years ago, it was a marsh. And then Microsoft moved in, they took over this old post office, and then all of a sudden the entire street of Jefferson, all the way from the coast to the 405, is all tech companies.
Yeah, that's what happened.
The building we're in is completely new. I think that when I visited it last time, the elevators were still wooden, and I showed you around. Oh, it froze. Okay, there you are. Okay. I showed you around. I mean, that it's just all tech, and that whole industry is just awesome. Like Google moved in next door, and I was talking to Amy Miller about that, who's going to be speaking. She's going to come down and work at the Google on the Playa Vista campus, right next to where the venue is, and then just walk over.
Nice.
Which we're assuming that's what everybody's going to be doing. They're just going to be walking over because there's so many companies in that core little district.
That's cool. That's awesome.
It was awesome talking to you. Derek Zeller, thank you so much for being a guest on the Tech Recruit podcast. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.